Good evening, everybody. House Republicans are saddling up to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland accountable. But a vote to hold Garland in contempt of Congress would be only the beginning. Otherwise, Republicans are doing little more than putting on an election year show when there is plenty of real work to be done. This administration is so corrupt and vile that it's hard for most of us to comprehend just how evil they are. Take a look at the Justice Department, which just exonerated itself of wrongdoing. Yes, seriously. The DOJ investigated itself and declared no wrongdoing at all. The DOJ launched a sham investigation to see whether senior DOJ officials had coordinated with Manhattan District Attorney George Soros's Alvin Bragg regarding Donald Trump's prosecution. And surprise, the DOJ absolved itself of any number of wrongdoings. And turning now to a disturbing Russian naval presence in the Caribbean. Russian warships have entered Cuban waters, sailing, by the way, less than 30 miles from South Florida's coast Tuesday. Last week, Moscow deployed 3 ships and a nuclear submarine to the Caribbean for its first air and naval military exercise in at least 5 years. And what is the Republican Party doing? The Republicans are currently pushing to give Ukraine the ability to use American weapons we've given them, to attack Russia directly, which would be a complete violation of Putin's red line. Biden quietly gave Ukraine the green light to do the same thing back in May. It seems that the only thing Democrats and Republicans can agree on is a foreign policy that conspires to make everything else worse. In the background of all this is China's looming threat to Taiwan. Last month, China conducted a massive drill around Taiwan to demonstrate just how easily and swiftly it can surround Taiwan. Our next guest is a survivor of Communist China and the author of the important book, Mao's America. She knows what awaits countries that are brought under the totalitarian heel of Marxism and communism. Let's bring on now Shi Van Fleet. Let's start with Taiwan. The positioning of Chinese PLA forces all around the strait. It's clear that they are trying to make it look as though they are ready to invade Taiwan. It's unclear whether they will. Your thoughts right now about Taiwan and the mainland?
Well, there's a huge difference. A lot of people just think about Taiwan and China without thinking. Taiwan really represents what China should be, a democracy. And China, the mainland China, as a totalitarian communist. So I think this is not in the conversation. I think it's very, very important that if we support democracy, and the choice is very easy. And also to understand that it is always the goal for the communists to take over to take over Taiwan. I grew up with this slogan, we will liberate Taiwan. And now they think they're strong enough. And so they become really, really dangerous because they think they can.
Well, and the issue becomes, at this point, it's a very clear choice for this country, yet it is a choice that it seems this government, this regime, Biden regime, has decided to align itself more with the Xi Jinping government in China than with the opposition party, for example, in the United States. It's really insidious what they're doing. It's destructive of American values, the American family, and it is culturally an effort to change the direction of this country entirely, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I came to this country in 1986, and I can see throughout the decades that America has become more and more like the country that I escaped, more and more like a communist China that I escaped, more and more like Mao's China, for God's sake. That's why I wrote that book, Mao's America. And everything that played out today is something that I lived through that are very, very familiar.
Well, this, speaking of Mao's America, the title of your book, it also rings right now with a certain freshness because when we look at what's happening on college and university campuses, when we look at what is happening between this administration, the Biden White House, and our friends in the Middle East, for example, whether it be Israel, whether it be any number of countries that we've had longstanding relationships with, they seem to be right now at risk because of the adamant shift in this administration's view toward China, toward geopolitics all over the world.
Yes, also, I think it's not just administration. It happened in the grassroots that we have generations of students who have been indoctrinated in our educational system. Now they have the worldview that is based on Marxism, based on oppressors and oppressed, based on political identity politics. And the view has changed from biblical worldview to Marxist worldview. That is the difference between today and the 60s when they launched their first cultural revolution, which is called counterculture. At that time, there's no critical mass. Most of the population are still hold on to the traditional view. Not today, not today. That's why it's so dangerous. Now today we have generations of Americans who grew up with this Marxist indoctrination, and they are becoming really Marxist. They become red guards, and they probably don't know, even though it's a word is woke, they become communists.
And that idea that they are becoming communists, we're seeing that indoctrination, as you say, throughout education. We're also seeing it throughout government itself.
Absolutely.
The Democrat Party has embraced it altogether. There is, without a question, Marxist leadership at the top of the Democrat Party. And there is just right now, it seems, no way for most folks to say, I understand this. This is what I need to do. Is there, in your judgment, aside from the choice we'll make on November 5th with Donald Trump as president, what can we do to forestall, to reverse the inroads made by these cultural Marxists as of this moment?
I think the first thing we have to do is wake up as many people as possible. And I think the left is helping us by pushing it too far, by pushing it to the extreme that a lot of people with common sense who pay no attention to politics started to wake up. But meantime, I really, really want more people like me who lived through communism, who can see through this and have their voice heard. Tell the American people, this is communism. This is something we lived through. And the result will all be death and destruction. There's no exception. And help more and more people to realize this election. And it decides the survival of our country and survival of our republic.
You lived through the Cultural Revolution in China. This is a cultural revolution. It has been slower. It has been far more paced, and it has been more insinuated into institutions and sectors of our society. But is there a way in which we should be responding, our government should be responding to cultural Marxism to reverse it?
Yes, I think we're doing really making great progress, and I really have to shout out for Christopher Rufo, who pointed out and really focused on DEI. And DEI is Marxist. We should not have it as a part of the institution, and that's what they have been doing. We can see DEI office in almost all institutions. That's where we start. We start from the institutions. We have to take all the DEI out of our institution, and we have to take back our schools and our universities.
Well, I can tell you that we have attempted to brand the Marxist Dems for what they are, that is, Marxist Dems. and make it very clear to this audience and to others and all who will listen and see through their eyes what is occurring, that the Marxists are in control of the Democrat Party, and a vote for a Democrat in this particular year is a vote for Marxism without any question. Do you agree?
I am not shy about it. In my tweet every day, I call them communist things. The party, the entire political party has been hijacked by communists. And this not just Democrat. And this, we can see this in both parties. We can see this in all our institutions. That's where we are today. All our institutions has been taken, has been infiltrated through what they call long march through institutions. And so we're in a dire situation. I absolutely have to warn everyone, this is Mouse America. This is absolute Mouse America. We have to stop it. And that's why this election is so important.
Xi Van Fleet, we thank you for being with us. Her book is Mao's America, and we thank you for being with us here to continue to raise the alarm as we head toward the most important election in this country's history in the minds of many, including myself. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hunter Biden has been found guilty on all counts now. Democrats claim that this is proof that the Biden justice system is working as intended. They're using it to try to dispel accusations of politicization by Republicans. I mean, you can't make up the lying, venal Marxist Dems. The victims of Biden justice, like Rudy Giuliani, would disagree. The Democratic Party is actively trying to destroy Rudy and others with a multi-front lawfare campaign to assure his destruction because of his affiliation with President Trump. And now here is Rudy Giuliani. Rudy, great of you to take time. I know you're just as busy as you can be right now. We appreciate you joining us. Let's start out with.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thank you, and same back at you. Let's start with this crazy moment right now in Washington, D.C. There's another vote coming on Merrick Garland. What is your thought about that entire process to hold him accountable?
Well, I think we should. I mean, we let Holder get off the hook for a very, very serious contempt, much more serious than the contrived things they've done with Bannon and Pete Navarro. The reality is this video, which would be a 2-day video of Biden being interviewed by her, is of critical importance to the American people. I mean, we have a right to know why this prosecutor determined that he's too mentally incompetent to stand trial. Because if he is, he's too mentally incompetent to have that little button next to him all day. And we got a world that's in turmoil. And there's every indication that this 6 or 7 hours shows a man that honestly should be in a rather stepped up nursing home and not making decisions of life and death.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Rudy. And to think that video of Nancy Pelosi taking responsibility for January 6th, as she should, that's been buried for over 3 years. And now suddenly it appears, and you have to ask the question, why? Whose political interest is it in to have had that video surface at this very moment? There's a lot going on here behind the scenes without any question. But at the same time, we watch these pictures, these videos of President Biden in a Juneteenth celebration. Everybody else is having fun and jumping around, and there in the middle of it all is a frozen Joe Biden. I mean, his thumbs don't twitch. He doesn't move. It's frightening beyond belief.
Yeah, when you consider all of the other things that have happened just in the last 2 weeks, his trying to sit down when there was no chair there, his going out in the wrong direction, his confusing Iraq and Ukraine. He had us at war in Iraq rather than in Ukraine, or he had the war going on between Russia and Iraq rather than Russia and Ukraine. I mean, the indications that he is unfit to handle any significant responsibility are overwhelming. And hold this back, you got to hate America to hold it back. I mean, you've got to say, we don't really care if the president is non-compos mentis, because we're really running the government, and we're not going to let them know who we are. I don't know if anything. I don't think anything like this has ever happened to us before.
Not that I know of. I guess the closest would have been in the days of FDR, in which he, at various points, was very ill. Woodrow Wilson after his stroke. But this is, in the nuclear age, this is deeply troubling stuff. And you know what bothers me as well, Rudy? Not only are the people benefiting from and managing this puppet president recalcitrant and refusing to acknowledge that he's a sick man, the national Marxist media, the corporate media in this country, is pretending that everything is just fine. They simply do not bring critical judgment to the White House. They don't ask uncomfortable questions in those press gaggles. It's deeply troubling, I think.
It is, Lou. It's almost impossible to understand. Sometimes I try to reverse it, and I say, because I served in the Reagan administration for 8 years. I loved Ronald Reagan, and of course I was Donald Trump's lawyer. If either of them had displayed this, I wouldn't have felt like I was disloyal to them by trying to rely on the 25th Amendment. I'd feel that I was doing my duty as a citizen. I don't think they love this country. The Democratic Party is more important than America.
Yeah, no question about that, Rudy. I think that encapsulates it perfectly. There's nothing as big as the ideology, the Marxist ideology that is driving the Democrat Party, the Marxist Dems in this country. A vote for a Democrat in this particular year is a vote for Marxism, and I think ultimately the destruction of this country, its values, its heritage, and its future. It will be turned over to a group of totalitarians, Marxists in the Democratic Party, without question. And that vote seems to me to be clear as it could possibly be. And it would be clearer yet if the national Marxist corporate media would actually acknowledge what's happening in this country. Just take a week and speak and write the obvious objective truth. But I wouldn't hold my breath, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And, it puts a tremendous responsibility on all of us to make sure, one, that we vote, number two, that we get people out to vote, that we don't want to fail to do something and then the next day realize we're losing our country.
Yeah. And as we look at what's transpired just this week, finding Hunter Biden guilty of all 3 counts, and now the White House and some in the left-wing media are ballyhooing. We'll see. It's not a 2-tier justice system. How do you react to that when you hear that from these folks?
I mean, the conviction was as if he was convicted of going through a stop sign. I mean, the man has taken somewhere around $50 million from foreign countries. Most of them are enemies, and has told us that he gives half of his income to his father on a text of December 25, 2018, that they never play, never show, and hide. During the trial, they never played the text in which Hunter admitted that a psychiatrist found him to be a danger to the children and he agreed that he was a danger to the children. For some reason, they kept that from the jury. So what we're really doing is we are concealing probably the worst scandal in American history. And this is being offered up as a way of kind of taking our attention off it. This is yeah, sure, it's important, but this is a meaningless conviction in comparison to the bribery, the extortion, the treason, and the terribly compromising position they put America. After all, he took money from Ukraine. I mean, and Zelensky knows the whole thing. Zelensky has the whole file. How do we know what's happening with that money that's going there? The general practice between Zelensky and him was that it would all get divided up with the oligarchs. We have no assurance that that isn't happening right now. The other money came from China. First thing he did when he came into office is he closed down an air base 400 miles from China. Who would do that but a traitor? I mean, it's not only that he got money, it's clear he was bribed. And he's sitting there and they're covering it up. We just can't, this has to come out so it doesn't happen again. You can't elect traitors to the presidency.
Yeah. No, we cannot. And what we have now in the presidency is at the very best a puppet president, at the very worst a man who has been just simply exploited by very dark forces within that Marxist Dem party. And they knew what they were doing. The uncomfortable thing here, amongst a lot of other uncomfortable things, is that it means that the Marxist Dems knew what his mental condition was when they put him up to run against President Trump. They knew who and what 100%. He was, how impaired he was, and they pushed him through. The Democrat Party,
I think they put the two of them up.
Exactly.
Just in case, God forbid, something happened to him, they've got another cipher in her. I don't know what's wrong with her, but she sounds like she's 12 years old. Yeah. I mean, she seems like, I mean, most people disapprove of her even more. She's
honestly,
not demented, but she's sure she doesn't seem to be operating with a full brain.
Yeah, I don't know how you could have come up with these two individuals so mentally, impaired, obviously, both of them in different ways, but they are clearly not normal and clearly deficient and not responsible for themselves, let alone responsible enough to hold the position of vice president and president of the United States. It is extraordinary what we're dealing with here. And Rudy, as we talk about that, President Trump continues to move up in the polls despite all that is being thrown at him by the Marxist Dems, the New York cabal. It's just outrageous. But here he is, dominating in the polls. He has a clear path to winning back the White House. Your thoughts about what is next from the deep state and the Marxist Dems to block him?
Well, I hope I'm not being overly optimistic, but I know him for a very long time. And as things get more important and more serious, he gets better. So you might notice he's a better candidate now than he was a year ago. And the reason is there's no one that is more aware of the magnitude of this election. And when he tells you it's beyond him, he means it. And I know he feels a heavy responsibility. He realizes the weight of this country is on his shoulders. That makes him a better candidate, and it'll make him a better president. Because he knows, when he says, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for you, he means that from the bottom of his heart.
And yes, he does. And thank goodness he has the desire still, after all he's gone through, to be the next president of the United States, because we depend on him for leadership. Without him in the White House, I don't like our chances. Rudy, you get the final word here.
Well, I think this is another example, and I hope it all works out right, that God had the right person for us at the right time, because there are very, very few people that could go through what you just talked about.
Exactly.
Very few people that would be able to go through it and be as sensible and rational and actually improve. The more we need him, the better he gets. And I think
Right.
that's going to continue.
He's risen to the occasion.
That's exactly the right words.
This campaign year, and he is ready to go to bring this country back. I keep saying this is America's 1939. This is a president he's our Churchill, and Donald Trump is the only guy who can get it done. Rudy, thanks for being with us. Great to see you.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Lou, for
some
your
time with us.
coverage. It's helping to save America. You really are quite something.
Thank you. You too, partner. Thanks so much. And turning to other stories making headlines, a new Pew Research poll shows just 19% of Biden voters say society would be better off if Americans were getting married and having children. Think about that. Additionally, 88% of Biden voters say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Meanwhile, ABC's View host Anna Navarro said Joe Biden is, quote, the most religious president of her lifetime. Watch this.
It's crazy for him to say that Democrats are against their religion at a time when we are led by Joe Biden, who in my lifetime is the most religious president I can recall. He's not a Christian conservative. He's an Irish Catholic.
Incredible. And turning now to an election update out of South Carolina. Congresswoman Nancy Mace won her Republican primary against a challenger that was both put in place and supported by former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who's been on something of a revenge tour for some time now. Mace will square off with a Democratic opponent, of course, in the general election, and Kevin McCarthy insisting that he would like to see all of these candidates be more pro Kevin McCarthy and anti-Donald Trump. Turning now to a fantastic deal you don't want to miss. As you know, Mike has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. After he invented the world's best pillow, he created those famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. My wife and I have been sleeping on them for years. They are tremendous. Your best night's sleep even better now. For a limited time, you will get a queen size set for $59.98, king size only $10 more. The lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees, of course, continue to be canceled by those big box stores and attacked by the national left-wing media. And they appreciate all of your great support during these times. And they want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. To get the best deals ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152. Use promo code Dobbs, and you'll get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98, king size just $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, to get free shipping on your entire order today. And please join me for my podcast every day, The Great America Show. Now that Boston's Logan International Airport is being used to shelter hundreds of illegal aliens, perhaps more than hundreds, it's beginning to look a lot like a third world slum. Take a look. It's unclear just how many people are actually being sheltered at Logan Airport, but it appears far more than they're admitting. In a statement to local news, the Massachusetts Port Authority said illegal aliens, quote, continue coming to the airport, arriving at all hours. The agency also said it helps bus them around and provides them with bilingual support, all paid for by you, of course, the taxpayer, the federal taxpayer. And in other news, 8 Tajikistan nationals with ties to ISIS have been apprehended in an operation that spanned from New York to Los Angeles and Philadelphia. All 8 terrorist suspects had managed to enter the United States without setting off any alarms, even though they were fully vetted. Their ties to ISIS were only discovered after the fact, after they had in fact been released into the country. This story comes on the heels of 2 illegal aliens from Jordan who tried to breach a Virginia military base in what appeared to be a purposeful test of our defenses. We covered that on this show, but how many people like this have managed to completely evade detection and their own backgrounds? We likely won't know until, I hope not, until it's too late. Before he became a Republican congressman, Eli Crane fought terrorism as a Navy SEAL. He knows how terrorists think and operate, though he probably didn't expect American leaders to invite them into our country wholesale, the way Joe Biden has done. Congressman Eli Crane with us this evening. And Congressman, great to have you with us. Where do we stand right now? I know that there was a 208-207 vote to advance the Garland issue. Can you bring us up to date on what is the latest?
Yeah, Lou, we just got off the House floor right now. We did pass that resolution to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. So, I was excited to see that passed. We'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, it was never a sure thing in that very tough division in your conference. It could have gone, I would guess, either way. But fortunately, it went the right way. So, what is your feeling right now? What are the chances that this thing will move forward successfully and have some impact in your judgment?
Well, Lou, I'd never hold my breath around here. I was actually surprised to see this one pass. It is a pretty weak conference, as you know, and so I don't know exactly what's going to happen from here. Happy to get back to you on that one, but I'm just glad that it passed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt the same way. I couldn't get any real solid sense. As a matter of fact, we were getting signals that there was such great uncertainty about the outcome of the vote that Speaker Johnson might not proceed. But fortunately, he did, and fortunately, the vote carried. So let's talk about where we go right now. We just had, I'm a hard man to surprise. I'm a hard man to shock, certainly. But I have to say, this latest report on Dick Durbin, and I want to read this for everyone. Dick Durbin to all Americans. DACA illegal aliens are the future of our country. Now, imagine that. The ignorance of that statement, no matter what he's doing, what his motivation, that is absolute ignorance of the highest order. And he is a disgusting excuse, in my opinion, for a U.S. congressman. Your reaction?
Well, Lou, like I told you a second ago, I'm really not surprised to hear that. I think that it just reiterates why so many Americans are so pissed off with politicians on Capitol Hill. It's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's in the water or something, but it seems like the longer you stay up here, the easier it becomes to turn your back on the very people that you're supposed to be protecting and supporting. And it seems as if it's always America last up here, whether it's sending more money over to Ukraine or a statement like that. And so it's disappointing, but really not that surprising.
Well, when I see that, we're talking about one of the top members of leadership in the Senate behaving like that. And then you've got Chuck Schumer, who is the Senate Majority Leader. This is pretty appalling stuff. The American people have got to do something here. Do you sense, as you're campaigning right now, do you sense that there is a revulsion about Washington, D.C.? Because I can't imagine Americans putting up with a U.S. Congress and a Senate that is behaving as they are.
I do, Lou, and I think that it's one of the reasons that you see former President Donald Trump's ratings so high, his polling so high. So many people are so energized about him coming back and assuming the helm once again, just because they're so frustrated and disenfranchised with Washington politicians. They want another outsider. They want somebody who has shown multiple times that he can get things done, and he'll actually attempt to do what he said he's going to do.
Well, in that instance, we've got a lot to do. And the border, we find out President Biden gave an order saying basically all immigrants, all illegal aliens, come on in.
Yeah, Lou, I mean, it's just more of the same from these guys. And I think that you're going to see the American people rally around President Trump in November because they're so tired of it. They've seen the destruction all over the country. I know that probably many people on your show, I'm sure you covered it earlier. The 8 suspected individuals who had ties to ISIS that were rounded up all over the country because of a wiretap. I was glad to see that. I appreciate our local or our law enforcement individuals who work so hard to keep us safe. But I got to tell you, Lou, my brain goes immediately to the fact that we round up fentanyl at the border every single day as well. But how much of it is getting through? And that's my concern with these ISIS members, these terrorists. Many of us have been trying to be the canary in the coal mine for a long time, talking about how these open border policies are going to put Americans in danger. And I'm worried that for those 8 that were wrapped up this week, there's a couple hundreds out there just waiting to wreak havoc on U.S. soil and American citizens. And I hope I'm wrong on that, Lou, but I think that when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I also think that everybody needs to understand exactly what's happening here. You can dress it up lots of ways. But what we have is a president who's mentally impaired, cognitively impaired. He is a puppet of the Marxist Dems, and amongst those Dems managing him, I'm sure, is Barack Obama, who called for the fundamental transformation of America. Well, you're looking at it in process right now, folks. And if everybody isn't absolutely disgusted and ready to take on these issues at this election and tell these people to go to hell, I don't know what it's going to take, because this is not a game that's being played. This is a strategy that is being carried out by ISIS, by all of these other groups. We have no idea how many people have come across that border who mean to do exactly what Congressman Crane said, which is destroy this country. And if you vote Democrat, you're voting for totalitarianism and the destruction of a constitutional republic. To me, it's just that simple. What do you think, Congressman?
I think you're right, Lou. I mean, it's to the point where they're not even trying to pretend anymore. I mean, the clip I watched the other day, and I know a lot of Americans saw it, where a reporter asked President Biden as he was walking off the stage, what he had to do, with, incarcerating or trying to incarcerate one of his political opponents. And he turned around and he had that little, smug smile. I mean, that it's like they're not even trying to pretend anymore. It's just so out in the open. And this is what frustrates me about Republicans. We should be going on offense and doing something about this, but it's just so difficult up here with the people that we have to play offense for the American people.
Yeah, you wonder where some of those folks in the House of Representatives come from. Who raised them, and how in the world did they get in the condition they're in? Because they're woefully wanting in terms of both courage and integrity. Hardly my idea of the Americans that should be representing all Americans. Some great Americans, including yourself, in that group. But boy, it's a tough conference to respect. I have to say that. We respect you, Congressman, and we thank you for all you're doing. Congressman Eli Crane, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Lou. I appreciate it.
A fascinating story now out of Hamburg, Germany, where an ancient manuscript has been discovered and identified as the earliest known account of Jesus Christ's childhood. This piece of papyrus is more than 1,600 years old. It appears to be the earliest surviving copy of the infancy Gospel of Thomas. The text relates to an account of Jesus playing beside a rushing stream where he crafted sparrows from soft clay. When rebuked by his father, the 5-year-old Jesus clapped his hands and brought the clay birds to life. Though that story is well known, this particular manuscript now predates the earliest known documents by another 600 years. And what is the true significance of the discovery? Joining us now to discuss this is Father Frank Pavone. He's the national co-chair of Pro-Life Voices for Trump and director of Priests for Life. And
Thanks, Lou.
Let me start with your view of the importance of this papyrus and its history, 1,600 years old at least. Your thoughts?
Well, it is of interest, of course, to all of us who believe in the Bible, and that's still most Americans and so many people throughout the world. And when it comes to the Bible, of course, it's a collection of books, and then we have other writings that didn't make it into that collection, but that talk about Jesus and, could have some accurate information. Of course, we know there are a lot of writings that circulated that the reason that they were not included in the Bible is that they were not accurate or they did not conform to Christian faith. But nevertheless, it's always of interest when some of these early documents are found. When we talk about some of the early writings that we have, they don't necessarily, the copies that we have don't necessarily go back all the way to the time that they were written. We have copies of copies that, progress down through the centuries. And that's what makes this interesting, because this papyrus that was discovered of a writing we already had is much, much older than the oldest one that we did have. So that is what, it's of interest. For people of faith, we should remember the Bible by itself is sufficient. We don't need extra writings in order to confirm or inform our faith. But nevertheless, it is, of course, of interest to all who believe in Jesus.
As you said, what's interesting about this is it's 600 years earlier than anything that we had on these writings, presumably from Thomas. But the other part of it is, there is something I think, frankly, affirming about seeing what people 1,600 years ago were reading and their thoughts on what were elements of the Bible or could have been elements of the Bible. Don't you think?
Yes, and of course, this papyrus has an interesting story from Jesus' childhood. And Lou, I think some of the interest is that, look, when we look at the Bible, we have to understand it's not meant to be a book that satisfies, our entire historical curiosity about the life of Jesus. The Bible is meant to tell us the things that we need to know for salvation. So there are a lot of gaps. There's a lot of questions. There's so many things we don't know. There's actually very little in the Bible about Jesus' childhood. And that's what makes this papyrus interesting, because it's a kind of an amusing story of Jesus making things out of clay, and St. Joseph comes along and sort of tells him to stop playing around, and Jesus claps his hands and the clay birds turn into real birds. So it's kind of an amusing story. Again, there's nothing there really that's contrary to faith. We know that Jesus is God. He does miracles. On the other hand, it doesn't add to faith, but we have a natural curiosity about these things, and of course, in heaven, we'll learn everything that on earth we're not yet quite able to know.
And it does bring a smile to read this story, and I just enjoyed that as well as the power of Jesus, even as a child, to really bring a miracle to life in the form of these clay birds, particularly. So let me turn to now an age in which we could surely use a lot more light and levity as we look around us and see all of the evil and the evil forces that are arrayed against us right now. One shudders to think how evil that force will become in the years ahead. Your thoughts about the times we're living in, and let's talk about where we go from here. Your thoughts on first the darkness of these times in which we live.
There's a radical denial of the value of life. You know, we're just talking about Jesus, and notice that little miracle. He's giving life. He's giving life to things. He's all about life. And today, Lou, one of the big darknesses, of course, I battle full time against the evil of abortion. And we've got states now. There are about 8 states that are either will or might have initiatives on the ballot to amend their constitution to take away every reasonable restriction on abortion. In other words, that it would not only make a policy, but would embed it into a state constitution that you could kill babies all the way up to birth, that it doesn't even have to be a doctor who does it, that there shouldn't even be parental involvement if it's a minor, or shouldn't even be clinic safety regulations, because after all, that might get in the way with how quickly someone can get an abortion. This is insanity. Most of the American people do not want unlimited abortion. But it's like, what is this? It's like this thirst, this obsession with death. And that's just one, I think it's the primary, most disturbing sign of our loss of moral reasoning, of our loss of the appreciation of life. Because if we can't respect life, if we can't respect the life of a little baby, how are we supposed to respect one another? And this is embedding itself in our politics. One of the things we have to do is, speaking biblically, expose these evils. And then the second thing we have to do politically is to vote out of office any politician who doesn't understand the basic fact that the main purpose of government is to protect life, and that, hey, you just don't have the authority to permit the killing of a baby. So that's one of the most disturbing things to me.
And looking back to Roe v. Wade and moving the issue of abortion to the states, I think all of us celebrated that. What we did not expect, I think many of us, at least I'll only speak for myself here, I did not expect it to be a fundamental conflict again over each state as to what they would permit and what they would not. But at any rate, irrespective of that, pushing it to the states puts the people in charge. And I think that is the most important thing. The battle can be had in those states at the best and closest level to each of us, so that we can exercise our energy and our thinking and our morality on the issue of abortion. I find that at least to still be intact as a result of the abolishment of Roe v. Wade.
That's crucially important, because Roe v. Wade, what it did was it made the courts a roadblock to the will of the people. People were trying to protect these babies through many different laws. And because Roe v. Wade says there was a federal constitutional right to abortion, those laws got struck down consistently. Now, the problem with these ballot measures is that they are again trying to bypass the will of the people. Say, oh, well, wait a minute, Father Frank, the people are voting on it. Yeah, but what's happening is the pro-abortion advocates are trying to put it into their state constitution. So now it would tie the hands of the people and the legislators in that state for any protective action moving forward. And a lot of the voters don't realize that. They think they're just voting on a policy, but meanwhile, they're taking the policy back out of the hands of the people, embedding it in the state constitutions, where, Lou, as you know, no state in our entire history has ever acknowledged a right to abortion in its constitution. This is brand new ground now. And I think it's rather anti people, for the people to decide the policy. Hey, the legislatures are open for business. Introduce a bill.
Right.
What the other side is afraid of, though, is that when you debate abortion, people come to see how terrible it is and they reject it.
Father, always great to see you. Father Frank Pavone, God bless you, and look forward to our next chat.
Thank you, Lou. God bless.
We turn now to election news in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where Democrat officials are on their way to jail for vote fraud. In all, 4 Democrats have been accused of misusing and abusing absentee ballots during the 2019 mayoral primary race. Bridgeport has a history of this sort of thing. In 2021, a city council member was charged with a number of election crimes. That city councilman pleaded guilty this year. In 2022, the Connecticut State Elections Enforcement Commission opened an investigation into an allegation of absentee ballot fraud during the Democratic primary for the 127th House District. You get the idea. They're busy there in Bridgeport. But remember, election fraud isn't a thing in this country. Only crazy people would be concerned about it, would worry about it, or call for investigations. I suppose that's what we're supposed to believe. We've got good news and bad news about the courts in America for you. First, a federal judge in Texas ruled against the Biden administration's Title IX rule change that threatened to withhold education funding from institutions accused of violating transgender rights. That's a victory for Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He sued the Biden White House over the rule change. It's a win for sanity and decency. The bad news is that a federal judge in Florida also just ruled against Florida's ban on so-called gender-affirming care for minors. According to U.S. District Court Judge Robert Hinkle, restricting children from permanently scarring their minds and bodies is, quote, unconstitutional. It is also inhuman. No doubt Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will keep up the fight, and we hope he prevails for the sake of all children. And just when you thought Democratic governance couldn't get worse, the cost of ice cream is soaring in New York City. And I mean soaring. Get ready for this one. $14 for a waffle cone. Highway robbery, you say? Well, it's just the new norm under Biden inflation. 11-year-old Isabella Diaz told the New York Post the prices her parents are paying for ice cream are simply out of control. It's true, Isabella, absolutely true, and it's an early lesson for you in inflation. Well, speaking of ice cream, wait until you hear this sweet deal. Mike Lindell has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life, and after he invented the world's best pillow, he created those famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. I absolutely love those sheets. So does my wife. And your best night's sleep just got even better. For a limited time, you will get a queen size set for $59.98, king size just $10 more. Those the lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees, well, they continue to be canceled by big box stores and attacked by the national left-wing media. But they appreciate all of your great support during these times, and they want to thank you. Thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. So to get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152. And please use promo code Dobbs, D-O-B-B-S. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98, king size $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com. Promo code Dobbs, and you will get your free shipping on your entire order today. Mike Lindell is not only concerned about how well you sleep, he's also concerned about how well you live in this great country of ours. He has been working tirelessly for years to assure that our electoral system has integrity and is secure. He's made a lot of sacrifices to do so in his push to secure our elections and save this republic. Please join us in showing our appreciation for Mike's efforts by sponsoring, attending, and or watching our Birthday Bash Telethon on his behalf on Sunday, June 30th. And please visit LindellOffenseFund.org. And please join us for my podcast daily, The Great America Show. Thanks for being with us. Join us here tomorrow, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Congressman Troy Nehls of Texas, Congressman Tom Tiffany of Wisconsin. They're here tomorrow. I hope you will be too. And coming right up after this show, the Lindell Report. Mike with a fantastic show lined up for you. Please join him. Thanks for being with us. Good night, and God bless you.